Good afternoon, dear organizers and participants of the conference National Medicine for Global Health. Let us introduce you to the theme of our work, Leonid Mikhailovich Roshal, Children's Doctor of the World. We have decided to tell you about this outstanding man because he contributed immensely to providing medical care to children and adolescents, and improving methods of children's surgical treatments which impacts on children's life expectancy and the demographics of the country. The work is presented by Anastasia Serova and Alina Voronчихina, the first-year students of the first group of pediatric faculty.
Leonid Mikhailovich Roshal is known as a Russian pediatrician and a heart surgeon, expert for the World Health Organization and the chairman of International Charity Fund that helps children in disasters and wars. This famous man was repeatedly recognized as the Russian of the Year and the European of the Year. He can be rightly considered a luminary of Russian medicine. He is ready to give up everything and go rescue people in critical situations. This happened for the first time when an earthquake occurred in the Armenian Spitak in the end of 1988. However, the doctor never chased after fame. He was recognized exclusively for his outstanding service.
Leonid Mikhailovich Roshal was born in the town of Lidny, located in the Orel region, on the 27th of April in 1933. His father was the head of the aviation division, and therefore the family often moves from place to place, from one settlement to another. Leonid's mother was a housewife. His parents predicted a military career for the boy. However, when he studied in the fifth grade, he wrote that when he becomes an adult, he will operate appendicitis. Before the Great Patriotic War, Rashal's family lived in a small apartment in Moscow. In 1941, they had to move to Tatarstan. After the war, the future Dr. Rashal has changed more than one place of residence. Leonid Mikhailovich remained in Tula, Yaroslavl, Lyubertsy. After graduating from school in Chkalovsk, located in Moscow region, the young man chose a medical career path and became a student of the pediatric faculty of the Second Moscow State Medical Institute, named after Nikolai Ivanovich Pirogov. Now is Pirogov Russian National Research Medical University.
After graduating from university in 1957, he began working as a local children's doctor, not forgetting to engage in scientific researches. He was trained in residency at the Department of Pediatric Surgery of Central Institute of Physicians Improvement, awarded by Lenin Order from 1959 to 1961. Roshal worked in Moscow Regional Scientific and Research Clinical Institute as a junior researcher from 1962 and then as a senior researcher from 1965. He defended his master thesis, Acute Intussusception in Children, in 1964, and his PhD thesis, Long-Term Results of Unilateral Lung Surgery in Children, in 1970. As a result, Leonid Mikhailovich Roshal defended the PhD at the age of 31 and became a doctor of science. He was appointed to the position of the chief non-staff pediatric pulmonologist of the Ministry of Health of the Moscow region since 1970 and became a professor in 1982. Dr. Roshal became an author and co-author of 250 scientific papers, as well as a co-author of 7 books, manuals, and a number of guidelines throughout his life. He has 8 certificates of inventions. They were written and defended 25 theses under his leadership. Roshal has been leading the Emergency Pediatric Surgery and Traumatology Department of Moscow Research Institute of Pediatrics and Pediatric Surgery since 1981. In 1990, Leonid Roshal began to manage the International Rescue Committee for Assisting Children in Catastrophes and Wars. He also headed the International Charity Fund for Children. In 2003, he took over Moscow Clinical and Research Institute of Emergency Children's Surgery and Traumatology, which is treating more than 1,600 children a year. In 2007, he was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize.
Leonid Mikhailovich Roshal is the founder of Scientific School in Pediatric Surgery and the development and conservation treatments of surgical children's diseases requiring early surgical interventions. He develops methods of conservative treatment of acute surgical diseases of chest and abdominal cavity, suburban diseases of lungs and pleura, as an example, which were publicized in the textbooks and manuals of pediatric surgery and is widely used in practical work of Russian pediatric surgery. The doctor's team travels around the world and rescues people who suffer from human-caused disasters, terrorist attacks, military conflicts, etc. In particular, Leonid Mikhailovich Roshal saves people after the railway accidents near Ufa. The explosion of an industrial enterprise in Yust-Kamennogorsk. Members of Roshal's team repeatedly traveled to the military zones such as Yugoslavia, Georgia, Abkhazia, Romania, Azerbaijan, Chechnya, and they also provided assistance to victims of earthquakes that occurred in India, Egypt, Japan, Turkey, and on the islands of Sakhalin. Roshal's team participated in assisting the victims of the terrorist attack that occurred on Victory Day in Kyrgyzstan in 2002. The doctors immediately left for the scene of the tragedy and managed to save about 27 children.
In October of 2002, armed men in camouflage and masks, who turned out to be Chechen terrorists, burst into the theater center on Dubrovka. The musical Nordost was performed on a stage at that time. The total number of hostages taken by the terrorists was 912 people. After the seizure, the terrorists declared all spectators and theater workers hostages and began mining the building. When the tragedy happened, Leonid Roshal was one of the few who managed to enter the theater, occupied with terrorists, and negotiated on releasing hostages with criminals. The doctor took 8 children out of the occupied music hall, prevented progression of asthma and epileptic attacks of several boys, brought water and medications to those who remained inside, and took care of sick people. He also set up an operating room in one of the theater's WC and helped people with bullet and shrapnel injuries. Roshal showed courage and dedication when terrorists seized the Dubrovka Theatre Center and was awarded the National Hero Prize on the 5th of November in 2000. Leonid Mikhailovich considers his duty to teach people who are familiar with the basics of providing first aid not to lose self-control and perform all the actions to save the life of the patient correctly and consistently. He reiterates it is necessary to create a quality system for training paramedics. The doctor hopes that one day an international organization of the world's first aid for children will appear due to his efforts. He shared his plans with the employees of the non-governmental international organization Doctors Without Borders once. However, unfortunately, they ignored his initiative.
Nowadays, Leonid Roshal takes an active part in the life of the country, being the co-chairman of the All-Russian Union of Public Association, Civil Society of the Children of Russia. He believes it's his duty to help kids and adolescents who have suffered in wars and catastrophes. Dr. Roshal has a huge number of awards and regalia. He also has gratitude from the Russian president who noted his contribution to the development of health and medicine in 2003. 5 years later, in 2008, he received gratitude from the head of state again for his contribution to the development of civil society institutions and the protection of human rights and freedom.
Leonid Mikhailovich Roshal had a long way of becoming a world-known doctor and a person of great virtue, who made a huge contribution to the development of pediatrics and children's surgery. He is undoubtedly an example of what a person and a doctor should be, so when we become practicing physicians ourselves, we want to follow him. Thank you for your attention.